Hello and welcome back to the Squirrel Heed YouTube channel, and welcome back to the second episode of the Premier League preview, which will be kicking off on Friday, which I completely didn't know. So I'm obviously going to rush through this a little bit and hopefully get the video out before tomorrow night, which I'm hoping, because otherwise it's pointless then, there's no point. Now what I do obviously have to mention first of all though is that of this evening, which is Thursday evening, news has obviously filtered through that Benteke We've had 27 million, I believe, with add-ons accepted from Crystal Palace. Now, obviously, I do have a bit of I just like Benteke. I think he gives you a different option. But if he's not going to get the game time under Jurgen Klopp, which he probably won't, it's probably best that he does move on and go somewhere else where they will probably most likely suit his playing style, which will be like Crystal Palace. Now, it's unfortunate as well that Crystal Palace have lost Yannick Bolasie, but they're bringing in someone. We're basically almost recouping all the money that we spent. I think we spent 32.5 million on getting Benteke. We are making roughly around 30 to 32 million as the total fee totals up back, which is pretty good from a business perspective. I am going to miss obviously having that option of having a Benteke, but we do have that many frontline options now. We shouldn't really miss him a great deal. So obviously it hasn't officially gone through. They've probably got to agree all personal terms and such like that. But the fee has been agreed. He could be moving on in the next couple of days. Don't know if he'll be eligible for the weekend. Probably not. I'm not entirely sure. But weirder things have happened. But if so, obviously the very best to Christian Benteke. And we move on to the Premier League preview show. Now obviously kicking off the Premier League action this weekend will be Manchester United versus Southampton. And it's Man United at Old Trafford with the re-debuting of Paul Pogba as well, coming into that beast of a team that they already have. Coming up against Southampton, who drew in their first game of the season. Manchester United got a 3-1 victory over Bournemouth. How is this game going to play out? It could play out in a number of ways. Last season, I believe Charlie Austin got a header and scored against Man United and won the game 1-0. But obviously the winds of change have obviously come over Manchester United at this point. Coming under Mourinho with the new players that they've got, the options that they have, the strength in depth that they have in pretty much all positions, maybe minus the full-back positions and centre-back to a point as well. But they're unbelievably solid. They will be unbelievably solid at the back, I believe. If they're going to be starting Luke Shaw, Chris Smalling, perhaps, I'm not entirely sure. Or Daley Blind, to be fair, because he's such an intelligent footballer in defence or midfield. That Eric Bailey, someone tell me how you say his name, please. I don't know how you say it. And I'd forgotten who their right back was in the first game, and it was Valencia. Most likely will be Valencia again, because he did look pretty good. Then you've got that midfield. You're going to have Pogba, most likely. He's got to be in there. Either that or they bring him on as a sub, but I imagine he'll start. Get him coming out at Old Trafford, coming back, his homecoming there. It'll be amazing for him and for Man United fans all over. Then the rest of the midfield, you can pick and choose which players. It doesn't really matter what they put on. And then it's obviously between whether they put Mkhitaryan on, Lingard, Martial, Ibrahimovic, obviously Rooney and stuff like that. Pretty much speaks for itself. Bournemouth, Southampton getting a draw in their first game. Obviously not the result that they wanted. They fought back, Redmond scoring a goal as well on his debut in the Premier League with Southampton. How do I see this game going down? I see it pretty much picking up where Manchester United left off against Bournemouth. They're going to build in confidence. Southampton are obviously a bit more of a tougher challenge than Bournemouth, but even so, Southampton have lost a good couple of players. It depends who they have up front as well, but even so, that defence looks pretty damn good. For the first game of the Premier League, for Man United to win 3-1 and a defender to get the Man of the Match award, that says everything that you need to know about their new signing, Eric Bailey. I'm calling him Bailey. Hope you don't mind. So I think they're going to be pretty solid at the back. They're going to find it pretty difficult to penetrate around that defence, especially with Luke Shaw coming back in and looking very, very good at left back. For me, I think Southampton are going to struggle in this one. They're going to struggle with the likes of Ibrahimovic. They're going to struggle with Martial or whoever they start on the wings or wherever. maybe even struggle with Wayne Rooney, and the creativity that will come, and the power, the pace, the different types of shots and stuff that Paul Pogba will be offering as well. I don't see anything other than a Man United win, and I will be looking at a 2-0 victory for Manchester United at their first home game of the season. Now then we come on to Stoke and Manchester City. Manchester City obviously they didn't pick up the most convincing win, but they did win, which is the main thing at the end of the day. Stoke, I think they eked out a draw in their last game. Shaqiri coming back to equalise with a hell of a free kick, but Stoke have got to start threatening. Like, they've got the quality players. They really have some very good quality players, and they've just got to. Like, it's unfortunate that they're going to come up against Manchester City, because Manchester City will most likely start to build and build and build and build on each performance that they have now moving forward. Manchester City obviously had some good moments in the game against Sunderland. They were having a lot of the possession, a lot of the ball, which is obviously a big, big trait that Pep Guardiola wants in his teams. He wants that ball, and he does not want to lose that ball, because if you have the ball, you can create chances, and the opposition has very, very little chance of creating anything. The flip side of that is that their attacks were sometimes a little bit blunt, sometimes a little bit misguided, but then obviously they'll probably carry a lot of confidence coming up against Bucharest in the Champions League this week just gone, obviously winning 5-0. Now Bucharest obviously aren't a big level team, they're not a Premier League team, and I'm not saying that Stoke are the biggest level team to come up against the Premier League, but to score 5 goals in any game is going to give your team a bit more confidence, a bit more bounce, and they're going to obviously start connecting and gelling a lot more, getting that style that Pep Guardiola wants. Could this be the time that Stoke City do maybe? I don't think that Man City are going to smash Stoke, but I do think that Stoke are going to struggle here. Now there's talks that Jack Butland could be coming back in for this game, could be ready for this game. He could very well come in and do a man of the match job. He is a fantastic goalkeeper. Could be a different game if he is in it. But again, this is another one. I don't imagine Stoke being able to pull out a win. They could possibly pull out a draw depending on how Man City play. But the way that they seem to have got Raheem Sterling playing, obviously that front line speaks for itself. The midfield speaks for itself. The defence can be a little bit, but it just depends, a little bit awkward, but it depends how John Stones is starting to settle in. I don't know. I'm not entirely sure, to be honest with you. I'm going to go for a 2-1 victory, but that could easily become a draw depending on how Man City and how Stoke play. Next on my list there, I have Swansea versus Hull. Now, Swansea versus Hull could be a pretty interesting game. Swansea have got some good players coming through. Hull put in probably, take away the Liverpool-Arsenal game, obviously with how good that game was in terms of attacking, but how bad it was in terms of defending. Hull probably had the game of the weekend, if I'm being completely honest and trying to be unbiased, because they took expectations and they threw them out the window. Everybody, most likely, with all the things that are going on with Hull City and their club at the moment, everybody most likely thought that they were going to be the team that was going to get crushed against Leicester, and they didn't. They came out, they beat them 2-1, and it was a very, very good, solid Premier League display. They looked like a team that belonged in the Premier League. That's what they look like, considering all the things that they've had to go through this summer and the uncertainty they've had coming into the Premier League and wondering, are they going to have enough fit players? Never mind, can they actually, play well? Then we obviously have to look at Swansea, who picked up a 1-0 victory against Burnley at last weekend, and they look pretty solid, pretty good. They've got some very good counter-attacking players, very good attacking players as well. This could be a very end-to-end type of game. Now, it depends also on sort of like what sort of style. Now, this is still very, very early on in the season, but what sort of style that Swansea are going to bring to the game, because when they get their passing game going, it is pretty ridiculous. But they do have other options now. They don't just rely on the old Brendan Rodgers, Laudrup type passing and possession and things like that anymore. They've got a lot more. They've got a target man in Llorente, who is he is a good striker. Obviously had some opportunities last weekend, didn't really take them. But then you've also got Hull, who just look like they've got some very, very talented players, and they will be playing their heart out for the fans and the club, and to make themselves a bit more appealing, so that if they can get transfers in, they're going to look like they're going somewhere instead of sliding down. So how do I see this game playing out? In my heart of hearts, I think that this will be a 1-1 draw. This could swing either way, but if it swings anyway, in my opinion, Hull could bring out like a 2-1 victory again. But I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw because I'm just not sure. Then we've got Tottenham versus Crystal Palace, and Crystal Palace may get the Benteke signing, but they may just be a little bit too late in bringing him in for Saturday's game. I'm not sure how it works, I'll be honest with you. Maybe you guys can let me know what that's all about as well in terms of registering a player ready to play. But they have lost Yannick Bolasie. Now, he is a very good outlet for them on the wings. He didn't necessarily score the most goals and didn't necessarily get the most assists, but he is a very good outlet, one of the fastest players in the Premier League. Will they miss that? Who are they going to put there? Are they going to bring anybody in apart from Benteke? Are they going to bring anyone in that is going to fill that role? Who knows? I'm not entirely sure. I don't know if they've got anybody coming through their ranks at the club. Tottenham obviously looked pretty bright when they started to change things last week. So they were losing 1-0 against Everton to a beautiful free kick from Ross Barkley. And then they changed things in the second half. Brought on Janssen to like partner up with Harry Kane, take that pressure off of Harry Kane, and it looked much better. They score a goal, and it just looked much more like Tottenham when they weren't struggling last season. When they were struggling last season, they were just, well, obviously everybody saw, well, maybe everybody saw the Newcastle capitulation, which wasn't a very good way for. It was like when Liverpool finished the season losing 6-1 to Stoke a couple of years ago. It's not how you want to finish your season. It just isn't. There's such negativity can be had from that. And I think getting the 1-1 draw will have done a lot for Tottenham in terms of moving forward and how they play the rest of their games, moving forward, and the different options that they've got up front as well to take that pressure off of Harry Kane and have another person up there that can score a lot of goals. Hasn't done it yet in this league, but they've still got a lot of creativity behind those strikers, and that will count for a lot. How do I see this one coming down? I think that Tottenham, personally, regardless of whether Crystal Palace be able to get Benteke over the line ready for Saturday or not, I firmly believe that Tottenham will have far too much quality for Crystal Palace. Unless some freak thing happens like against Newcastle last season for Tottenham, I can only see a Tottenham winning this one, and I believe it'll be a 2-0 victory. Coming up next, we've got Watford at home to Chelsea. Now, Watford, I think, got a draw in their last game in the Premier League. Chelsea picked up a 2-1 victory against West Ham in a pretty drab affair, and obviously had highlights with Diego Costa and such like that with the type of fouls that he'd given away, but less of that. Anyway, moving on. Watford have some pretty good strikers in Ighalo and also Troy Deeney as well, so they've got strikers that have done it in the Premier League before. Ighalo obviously having that blinding run that he had in the first half of the season last season, obviously trailed off a little bit at the end, but then they had Troy Deeney to come up, and he was also coming up with the goals as well, keeping them afloat, making sure they didn't get down in the relegation zone. Chelsea, on the other hand, obviously have Batshuayi up front, Diego Costa as well. They have those options, not necessarily saying that they're going to start together, but I do believe it was Batshuayi who gave the assist to Diego Costa for his win on Monday night just gone. And to be honest with you, I think that the quality that West Ham have, I think, even though they didn't really have Dimitri Payet playing in that game, not until late on in the game anyway, I think Watford could potentially do some damage. But I think, if anything, maximum, I think Watford could get one goal. I think Chelsea will most likely. Eden Hazard scoring his first goal is going to do his confidence a boatload of good. Diego Costa getting his goal, Batshuayi getting an assist. I think that Chelsea will start to pick up, unfortunately. I think they will start to pick up, and I think Watford is the perfect opposition for them to do it to. And I think that Chelsea are going to win this game. I think Chelsea are going to win maybe 3-1. I can see a 3-1 victory for some reason to Chelsea, and I'm not sure why, but that's what I'm going for here. The second to last of the 3 o'clock kickoffs is West Brom versus Everton. Now, West Brom obviously got a victory through Salomon Rondon. Very good goal by Rondon, looking like the striker that they need, the point man, the target man that they need. And if they can keep Berahino alongside him, that'll be a very good partnership for them. And as solid as Pulis can make a defence as well, that can only mean good things in my opinion. Everton looked pretty good actually. I do have to say, like, trying to look at non-bias, Everton did look pretty good with under Koeman's first competitive game in charge. Obviously getting a draw against Tottenham. Ross Barkley looking like he could actually progress. Like he looked like he'd gone back a couple of steps under Martinez as Martinez's reign went on. But since Koeman's come in, could look like he's going to, start to actually push on. He's not going to be able to claim that, young talent label for much longer anyway. He's really going to have to start proving himself. Obviously, if they can keep hold of the likes of Lukaku as well, that will be awesome. Now, it depends how they'll start. He is obviously their most prominent striker, in my opinion. I would be going with, Lukaku up there. Hopefully, you've got Ashley, for them guys anyway, you've got Ashley Williams going in defence, which is only going to make that defence much more solid than when John Stones was in there. Who knows? This could really be a battle of the defences instead of the battles of the attack. Whose defence is going to hold out more? It's going to be like Rondon versus Everton defence. Lukaku, perhaps, if he's going to be playing against West Brom's defence. It could be, I don't know. It's quite not unpredictable, because obviously I'm trying to do a prediction, but from the performances I saw from both of them, they were pretty equal in my opinion. And I think, prediction wise for scores, I think I'm gonna have to go for a score draw of a 1-1 draw between the two. Could swing either way depending on how they come out. For me right now, I can only see a 1-1 draw. The final of the 3 o'clock kickoffs on Saturday is Burnley at home to Liverpool. Now, I'll be doing a separate video on that one, so that one will be coming a little bit after this one, and it'll be coming on Saturday morning. So look out for that one if you please. But I'll cover everything about that game in a lot of detail, maybe another 10-minute video about that game. So check that one out when it's out on Saturday. And the 5:30 kickoff on Saturday is Leicester at home to Arsenal. Now, last week wasn't the best weeks for these guys. Hull being able to beat Leicester 2-1, incredible result really when you look at it. And then obviously Arsenal getting beat by Liverpool, and it was a pretty good victory for us, but really not a great one for Arsenal. Leicester have managed to make sure that they keep hold of Riyad Mahrez, and that is huge. Literally the same day, and I'm talking Thursday morning, the same day, in the morning, news articles saying that Riyad Mahrez is coming out. If a Real Madrid or a Barcelona come, I'd be tempted. And then literally hours later, he signs a new deal, and that is massive for me, I think, and that's going to do a lot for him in terms of transfer rumours disappear, so that means he can concentrate solely on his football and doing the best he can for Leicester, and that is massive because he looked like he had a big weight on his shoulders last week, and that wasn't the best Riyad Mahrez that you could have ever seen. This could now free him up. He's got no pressure. Everybody knows he's staying at Leicester, and that is unbelievable. Bad news though for Arsenal, who were linked with a bid for Mahrez, and obviously that isn't going to happen now. And there are a lot of grumblings now between Arsenal fans and such like that who aren't happy with how their club is doing their transfer business. And I have to be honest, as bad as some of our transfer deals have been in the past, I would be unhappy with how things are happening now. Now, Arsenal have had some very, very world-class signings. Mesut Ozil and Alexis Sanchez, obviously the two that stick out the most. They are exceptionally talented signings that have done really good things for Arsenal, but they haven't been supplementing that talent every year. They haven't been bringing in like 2 of those a year or developing 2 of those a year to supplement that squad to really make sure that they don't just get top 4, but they can actually push for a title and really, really push. Like how Tottenham pushed that title last season. Up until the last couple of games, they were pushing, they were in that race. Arsenal, I don't know how the club is run. I'll be honest, they're not my club, so it's not my business to go and have a look at how all their owners and such like that are running the business. But by the looks of it, they're quite happy with having the top 4 and running it primarily as a business, which is okay if that's all you want them to do. But then why do you have fans if you're just wanting to run a business? Surely you've got to take like your all your things like your fan channels, your supporters trusts and stuff like that, or whatever you have up with Arsenal. How are the club not going to be listening to that or ignoring what the fans are saying? It's got to be really frustrating. I can't imagine the situation that they're in where they're coming out saying we have hundreds of millions of pounds to spend. Yes, they brought in Granit Xhaka, 30 million. They brought in a Japanese forward, I'm not sure what his name is, sorry. And they brought in Rob Holding in defence, who is most likely going to be a very good prospect. but they haven't spent a great deal of this big money that they say they have. They've been dragging out this Mustafi deal for another defender. Now, when you know that your new captain that you've made, your new captain in Mertesacker, and he's out for 5 months, 5 months, not 5 weeks, 5 months. You make him captain, and your captain is now out for 5 months. You have to have a replacement pretty much almost ready to go, or you go, right, we'll pay the money because we need you in. We need an experienced defender in here who's going to be solid, even whether Mertesacker's fit or not. Mertesacker isn't getting any younger, and he certainly isn't getting any faster either. Bringing someone in like Mustafi is going to be key. Why they are dragging out this deal, I'm not sure, but they need to get something over the line. Otherwise, that defence could get ripped apart again, not only by Jamie Vardy, not only by Riyad Mahrez. There's Musa as well, who, while he didn't look very good in the whole game, he will most likely kick on and do quite well. He scored some great goals against Barcelona in pre-season, and I know it's pre-season, but still, he's proven that he can do it. He's just got to do it. And that defence of Arsenal's is really, if they're going with a young defence again, they are really going to have to, not stick to each other, but stick to their positions so well. Otherwise, it could end so badly again for Arsenal. How do I see this game going down? I have to be honest, and I'm not against Arsenal or anything like that at all. Bring in Giroud, Ozil and Koscielny, and your spine of your team starts to look a lot healthier. If they don't do that, for me, I do have to go with what my gut says, and I do think that Leicester are going to win, and I think it's going to be a 2-0 victory. Now we move on to Sunday's games, the final two games. There's no MNF this week because obviously we had Friday night football. 1:30 kickoff is Sunderland versus Middlesbrough, and the 4 o'clock kickoff is West Ham United versus Bournemouth. Now, looking at the Sunderland versus Middlesbrough game, now I'm literally just reading, it's just coming out to restart this, from Sky Sports, is that Sunderland have accepted a bid from Watford for Yunus Kabul, which is, well, I thought that Sunderland, aside from obviously the own goal that they scored, they scored for Man City last week, I thought that Sunderland looked pretty good. I maybe would have kept Kabul in there because he's an experienced defender. Anyway, it's literally just breaking news. I don't know anything about it really aside from that. But anyway, so Sunderland versus Middlesbrough. Middlesbrough had a pretty decent start. I think they got a draw in their game. Negredo scored in that game as well. Negredo's a striker I've always been a fan of, even if it's not, when he was in the Premier League. I just think he's got something about him. He's a good target man, and he's got a good strike, good header. He's a good presence in any box, and he could cause some problems for Sunderland's defence. Obviously, if Yunus Kabul is going to be moving on and he's going to be out there, and they're going to go with the youngsters like Paddy McNair and Donald Love as well. I'm not entirely sure how that's going to work out now. Obviously, it's changed how I'm thinking about the game in terms of predictions. Sunderland, though, obviously, as I've said last week, have that goal threat, and it proved right in Jermaine Defoe getting in behind their defence and slotting it past Willy Caballero. That was a brilliant goal, and they've always got that. They've got some good players that can come up with goals from anywhere. They had Jermaine Lenz who was coming up with goals. I think they have obviously got some very talented players that can score goals from pretty much anywhere in and around the box or outside the box as well, which will be very key for David Moyes as well coming into his second game. We'll want to pick up a win from a game where he shouldn't have lost, in my opinion. It should have been a draw if you're going on the run of play. But anyway, how do I see this game playing out? I think it's going to be a tale of who can score more goals, and I think on the run of play, I think it will be Sunderland, and it's the first derby, obviously Sunderland and Middlesbrough. So how do I see it going down? I think Sunderland are going to squeak out a win. I think maybe Jermaine Defoe is going to pop up with a goal. I think it's only going to be 1-0 either way, but at the moment I can just feel it. I can see it being Sunderland's way. Sunderland with the 1-0 victory. And the last game of this week, which will be West Ham versus Bournemouth. Both teams got off to, defeats, and Bournemouth were pretty handily beaten by Manchester United, but the quality that's in that Man United team, you can first game of the season, pretty unfortunate to come up against Zlatan Ibrahimovic, but anyway, you've got to move on, you've got to kick on. West Ham, pretty similar. West Ham will feel like they've been kicked in the teeth. Obviously, with Diego Costa, which, in my opinion, and most people's opinion, should have been sent off for his challenge on Adrian, and then it probably would have finished 1-1. You can never predict, though, and they did get beaten 2-1. So West Ham, again, will be looking to pick up points. West Ham, are they going to be starting this time with Dimitri Payet? In my opinion, they have to. I've said it before, and I'll say it again, that West Ham without Dimitri Payet is just a little bit toothless. It's a little bit less creative, and they do struggle to create chances or clear-cut chances where that's where he shines. That is what he does, and he's very, very good at doing it. Bournemouth, they did play not too bad against Manchester United. They just came up against too much quality, in my opinion. So I think if they can keep going in the way that they were going, and obviously get their strikers involved a bit more in the game, scoring more goals, that is obviously going to be key over the season. Are they going to do it this weekend? They could do it, but I think if Dimitri Payet is starting in this game, I think you'll see a different West Ham, and I think that West Ham will win this game 2-1. Those are my thoughts for the weekend ahead. What are your thoughts? Let me know in the comments. Please let me know. I like to hear what your thoughts are about everything to do with the football coming up this weekend. How much are you looking forward to it? It's obviously awesome to have it back. It's so brilliant. Now, as I said before, the Liverpool preview for the Burnley game will be coming out a day later because I don't have time to do it on the same night to really analyse it in the same video. So there will be a separate video for that coming out hopefully on Saturday morning well before our game at 3 o'clock. So if you've enjoyed this video, please drop a like on it. Look out for the Liverpool preview as well coming on Saturday morning. And if you've enjoyed it, please drop a like on it. Subscribe if you're new around here. Leave some comments down below and I will catch you later.